Welcome, everyone. I'm going to move a little fast through the introduction, so I apologize. But first of all, I want to welcome all our STRIVE students from Kennedy and Jefferson. This program today is for you and about you. I hope you're asking a lot of good questions, and we're going to have an opportunity for you shortly to ask some more questions. We have a lot of guests with us from the school district and from the various schools. So Les and Debbie from District 271, would you mind standing up real quickly and just introducing yourselves?
Debbie Belfry, Bloomington Schools, and also president of the Bloomington Daymakers Rotary.
Thank you. Les Luchikoff, Superintendent.
Thank you, Les. Now, would everyone from Kennedy High School staff and teachers please stand up and just do a quick introduction of yourself?
Roland Flores, Student Advocate.
Radius Guest Engagement Coordinator.
Andy Beaton, Principal.
Thank you all. Same for Jefferson High School, please.
Carrie Jarvis, Assistant Principal at Jefferson. Catherine Kretzmeyer, Counselor.
And now I'm going to ask Normandale Community College to please stand. And while they're doing that, I want to give a special thanks out to Normandale. Normandale has through their page, I'll let you name the program, but through one of their programs, they have been doing an excellent job of helping us with the STRIVE program this year. And as all of you know, Normandale matches STRIVE scholarships up to $1,500. So Paige, why don't you start, and we'll just do the introductions and move forward.
Sure, I'm Paige Wheeler, and I'm a coordinator in Normandale Center for Experiential Education.
I'm Alex. I'm a student at Normandale Community College. I'm part of the Leadership Through Service program, and so I'm the leader of STRIVE this year at Kennedy High School, and it's been a really wonderful experience.
I'm Wanda Kammershire, and I'm the director of the Center for Experiential Education at Normandale.
Hello, I'm John Kren, and I'm a volunteer student mentor at Normandale, and I love what I do.
My name is Brandon. I'm a student at Normandale, and I'm part of the leadership group for one of the clubs on campus.
My name is Jamie Miller, and I work with Christian Student Fellowship Club at Normandale.
And I'm Wally Hausman. I'm a TRIO Student Support Services Advisor at Normandale.
Thank you. John, was that all your guests?
Yes.
Don, did you have a couple of guests? Okay, sorry. Now I would like all the people that mentor with the STRIVE program at Kennedy or Jefferson to please stand up. Now, the purpose of all that was just to let you students know that when it comes to a program like STRIVE's, or any other program for that matter, it takes a lot of people putting forth a lot of effort to make that work. And that's one of the principles that we try to promote in Rotary, is that we are a community, a fellowship of individuals from a lot of different backgrounds, but by working together, we can all hopefully accomplish whatever dreams we can come up with. Now, our program today is going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. I have three individuals here, each of them at a various stage in their educational progression, each of them with a little bit of a different background and getting to where they are today in different ways. And we're just going to have them come up, and we're going to do a little bit of a panel discussion. They're going to introduce themselves. They'll give you an idea about their background, where they came from. Hopefully I won't steal too much of their thunder with my introductions. And then we would like you students to ask any questions that come to mind. And if not, I'll get things started with a question. But first, let's do the introductions. And Alex, would you come up, please? Alexandra Soth is from Park Center Senior High School. She graduated there with honors in 2014. She is currently in the process of getting her associate degree with plans on majoring in social work. Alex is interested in working in the human services field and working with victims of intimate partner violence. I'm going to introduce all three. So Alex, if you want to have a seat for now, and then we'll go down the line with our introductions. Our next panelist is Brandon Hall. Brandon, would you come up? Brandon graduated from Mound Westonka High School in 2007. He had no aspirations for continuing education at the time. And as Brandon puts it, he spent 5 years bumming around and working. Brandon finally realized that if he didn't want to be working 12 hours a day for minimum wage, he needed to get back to school, which he did. Brandon will be graduating from Normandale in a few weeks, and he's been accepted into the program at Oxford University, London in the spring to study English literature and evolutionary linguistics. I could use a little of your help there. Kadra Abdi. She is originally from Somalia and currently lives in Minnetonka. Kadra earned her high school diploma from Cedar Rapids, Washington High School in Iowa. She then earned a BA in anthropology and women and gender studies from Luther College and a master's public policy from the University of Minnesota's Humphrey School of Public Affairs. Her graduate study was oriented towards gender and global policy along with human rights. She has a strong background in restorative justice, youth development, social entrepreneurship, community engagement, and public policy. Kadra is the president and co-founder of Askashi International, an initiative whose mission is to partner with communities to co-create spaces in which all people can express ideas and opinions, identify solutions to concerns, and navigate the policy world to create sustainability. Kadra is a Metropolitan Council Equity Advisor Committee member and a Council of American Islamic Relations Minnesota Advisory Board member. Kadra. And now I will ask each of you to stand and just do your own introduction, and from there we'll go into some questions. Alex?
Okay. Hi. I prepared like a little speech, so bear with me, okay? So as Terry said, I'm Alex. I'm a student at Normandale Community College. I'm like these two. I'm still in the process of figuring out myself, and college has been a really different experience for me since I started. I had to work a lot on like my time management skills, my social skills, being more confident in myself and what I do, and really just getting out of my comfort zone. And I remember after my first day of college, my mom called me, and I just got really emotional for some reason, and it was just a really different experience for me. And it wasn't a bad experience, I would say. It was just really different, and college is a different experience than high school. That's how it was like for me. And my mom, she's my biggest inspiration for me to continue pursuing my education. My mom, whenever I talk about education, my mom's the first person I think of because she wasn't born in Minnesota. She was born in Cambodia, and when she was born, it was during the Vietnam War and the Khmer Rouge. And during that time, she had to spend a lot of time running away from the war. And so my mom lived in like refugee camps in Thailand for about 14 years of her life. And when she came to Minnesota, she was 15 years old. And when when she came here, she knew no English. She knew nothing about the American culture. So my mom had a really hard time growing up. And then when she came to Minnesota, it was a struggle for her, and she didn't want me to grow up living life, having a difficult life. So my mom always really encouraged me with my education. Like, for example, when I was a kid, like I didn't really care about education when I was a young kid, but my mom, she always kept telling me that school is important. You know, you have to read, you have to learn how to do math and learn English, and she, emphasized English so much to me, and I didn't understand why until I grew up. But I remember in kindergarten, they made us do like reading quizzes, and it was really hard for me to pay attention. So my mom always, she always read the books out loud to me just so that I can pass the reading quizzes. And I think that was just really, when I look back on it now, it's just something that I'm so grateful for my mom. And she seriously inspires me and really motivates me to continue pursuing my education. And because of all she's done for me, I want to give back to her. And I would say that pursuing a secondary education has encouraged me, has helped me grow a lot as a person. It's helped me figure out who I am. I think one personal growth is that I'm a lot more confident in myself, and I would never have spoken in front of this many people when I was in high school or in junior high, and the fact that I'm doing this without crying is a really good accomplishment, I would say. And not only confident in myself, but it's just that it's helped me figure out that I'm so much more capable of doing anything. And education has really allowed me to gain more knowledge and a lot more knowledge on social issues around the world, especially social injustice and like women's rights. And I've learned a lot about women's rights through college, and it's helped me find my voice to advocate for those issues. And one dream of mine is to make a difference in this world. And I'm currently at Normandale, and Leadership Through Service has really felt like that dream is possible because of all the volunteering that I've done. And I know not a lot of people are familiar with Leadership Through Service, but Leadership Through Service is a program that really is more for first-generation college students, and it really gets students involved with the community. So I've done a lot of volunteer work, and one of the main components of the program is at 300 hours of volunteer work within a year. So that's my goal for that program, and Normandale has really made me feel like that dream is possible to do. And I want to kind of give like advice to the Kennedy High School students, or the Kennedy High School in Jefferson, but the Kennedy High School students, you guys have really inspired me with your passion for continuing your education, and it's really motivating to see so many students care about their education, and it's really inspiring. And I really hope everyone doesn't stop striving for your dreams. Always believe in yourself. We're all so much more capable than we think. And yeah, and always pursue your passions. So thank you.
Right. My name is Brandon, and as Terry had said earlier, I graduated high school in 2007, had zero desire for any sort of continued education whatsoever. I saw a lot of the people that I knew who were older, who were bogged down with student debt and all these different things, and I was like, that doesn't look like fun. I think I'm just going to go straight to work, which was equally unfun, by the way. So I did that for a while, and like it said, like 12-hour shifts are not fun to do after like day after day after day. And so I remember I'd gotten home from work one afternoon. I was serving at a restaurant, and I was complaining to one of my friends. I was like, I had to work super, super hard to get really bad tips, and all these people were terrible, and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, unless you go back to school, this is it. Like, unless you either know someone super cool or you get really lucky and win the lottery, like, this is it. Like, this is what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. And within, like, a couple hours, I'd already started the application to Normandale. I was like, I have no excuse for not doing this. And, and there's always going to be excuses to stay where you are, because it's safe where you are. And it's dangerous and it's scary to step into something that you've never experienced before. And college was one of those things. I grew up in a single-parent home. My world was very small, and so to step outside of that and to choose to continue my education was kind of a big deal. And so that was 2007, 2008 when I graduated high school, and then 2012 was when I actually decided to go back to school. And even then, I went back in with purely the intent of making money. So I started as a nursing major because there's a lot of opportunity for growth in the nursing field. There's a lot of job security, et cetera, but I was miserable the whole time. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of academic stuff that I just didn't speak. The languages were difficult. A lot of work, the lab work, et cetera. It was all very difficult. And so 2 years ago, I had to take one more class. And that was an English class. It was just a prerequisite that I needed to finish my generals. And I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with it. And I've been reading my entire life. I've been writing my entire life. That was my escape when I was a kid. And everything just fell into place. My entire life just mellowed out. And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so out of nowhere, I was like, what do I have to lose by trying? So I did apply for Oxford. And it was a huge blessing to get accepted into the program, a huge honor. And so I've been thinking this last semester as I start to transition out of Normandale and into just kind of the next stage of my life, that there is a lot of benefit in personal study and independent study. A lot of the things that I've learned, a lot of things that I enjoy learning, I learn on my own. They're not things, that are being assigned to me by professors or tests that I have to study for or papers that I have to finish. I read 400-year-old books for fun. That's what I enjoy to do. That's what I enjoy doing. And that's a very fulfilling thing to experience, to find something, to find your niche, to find something that you're truly passionate about, and to choose not to have someone else tell you how to do it or what to do, but to choose to do it on your own. There's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of autonomy that comes with that. And so I am a huge advocate for continued education, not only because it kind of crystallizes what you want and what you don't want. Sometimes more specifically, you find out that this isn't what I wanted in the first place, and that's okay. Like, nursing is a great field, and I wish I had the capacity to do it, but I don't. And I have a lot of respect for those who have chosen to follow that as a career path, any medical field whatsoever. So continued education it's a partnership between these people trying to guide you and help you into something that you want to do and to find that and to pursue that passionately, regardless of whether or not that's going to make you money or not. Because one of the conflicts that I had to deal with was whether or not I want to follow the money or whether I want to follow my passion. And unfortunately for me, those two things are not the same. And that's okay. I'm okay with the fact now that I will not be making $1 million a year. That's fine, because I will be happy while I'm doing this kind of thing. So my advice, I suppose, my encouragement for you guys is to find your passion, like she'd said, and just stick to it. And regardless of what other people are telling you that you should or should not do, if you are passionate about it and you are convicted about this, then you need to follow it. And the only one that can tell you that is you, and you won't regret it, I promise that. So.
Hello, again, my name is Kadra Abdi, and I think I don't really have much to say because they said everything that I wanted to say. And my story is actually very, very similar to Alex's. So I came here as a refugee when I was 10 years old, and my family was brought to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, not by our own choosing, but because of the sponsorship program with the United Nations. And there was a church in Iowa called St. Mark's Lutheran Church who volunteered to sponsor my family and others. So that's where we landed. I continued elementary school, but I actually started primary school in Kenya in a refugee camp. And so like Alex's story, my mom was huge. She was very huge in my educational path. She worked and found jobs, odd jobs, to support us. So even though we had a school to go to, it wasn't the best school, obviously. It was in a refugee camp. She did odd jobs. She delivered milk, anything to pay for a tutor to help us with our English. And we had to learn Swahili because it's a new country, and so we had to adapt. And so when my family came to Cedar Rapids, I continued elementary school up to high school in Cedar Rapids. And then in 2003, 2004, my senior year in high school, there was an opportunity to go visit this school called Luther College in Decorah, Iowa, which is 2 hours north of Cedar Rapids. And my family didn't want me to go. They wanted me to stay in Cedar Rapids. Iowa has a lot of wonderful private colleges, so I knew I wanted to go to a small private college. And so I actually had already applied to several others, and taking this trip to Decorah was just a way for me to get out of school that day. But I went there and I fell in love with the campus. I fell in love with, with some of the students that were there, and it was just I felt like it was a really good fit for me. So I applied immediately. I canceled all my other applications to the other schools and did FAFSA for the first time ever, which is, a pain, so I'm a first-generation college student, but I'm also a first-generation graduate student. And so I had to do all of that on my own. I have 6 siblings, but I'm the only one that decided to do everything. So I had to do a lot of it on my own, and I had to seek out advice and resources wherever it was possible. And it was really at Luther that I really became aware of my leadership skills, aware of my ability to navigate between spaces. Growing up in Iowa, I was a lot of times the token Muslim, the token Somali. I stood out, in the classrooms and everywhere else. But it was really at Luther because I had the opportunity to meet a lot of international students from Ghana, from Ethiopia, from South Africa, and it was with them that I really felt at home. So I was in between the space where there were the international students of color, and then there was the domestic students of color. So it was always tagged between those two groups. But I really became aware of those leadership skills. I became active in student organizations. I was part of Student Senate, Black Student Union, Muslim student organizations, and I think the student organizations really complemented my studies. And then in 2008, there was a study away opportunity to go to Morocco. And I looked and looked and looked for money to be able to do that because financial aid didn't pay for it. So I found some loan money to go and study abroad in Morocco. And for me, studying away really complemented, again, my studies. So in Morocco, we studied about the Islamic law and the family code in Morocco and all these other wonderful things about the country. And so then I decided to move to Minnesota, away from my family. And I took a gap year between college and graduate school. And I did AmeriCorps, where I worked with what they called at-risk youth. And these were kids who looked like me, who had my background, who were immigrants, who were refugees, who had to quickly learn how to speak English, quickly learn how to do well in their courses so that they can be prepared to go to college. So I worked with them with their ACT exam. I worked with them with their college essays and also took them to college visits. So pretty much getting them college ready. So I did that for about a year, then decided it was time for me to go to graduate school. And so I studied at the Humphrey School. And at Humphrey, my focus again was gender and global policy. Any of you interested in public policy? We can talk. Okay, sounds good. Let's talk later. And so Humphrey School is located in the West Bank. So there we had access to a lot of international visitors, and then I also took the opportunity to study human rights at the law school. And again, at the Humphrey School, there was another opportunity to travel to Tanzania. So again, that was another opportunity for me to go, and for me because I think I wanted to be a global citizen, and I knew that I couldn't learn everything I needed to learn being in a classroom. And in college, I was exposed to an anthropologist called Wade Davis. His quote really, really empowered me as a student and informed my studies. And the quote goes, "The world in which we live in is just one model of reality. Other cultures are not failed attempts at being you. They're unique manifestations of the human spirit." So I knew that my world was very small, like Brandon's, and to really learn and to be a global citizen and to be a lifelong learner, I needed to travel and to make that part of my life. And one advice that I'll leave you with is, I know many of you are immigrants and many of you are probably first-generation college students, so you probably want to be doctors and lawyers and all these other wonderful things, and that's great, and it's probably what your parents want you to do. But in order to make them happy, I would say, again, follow your passion. And to do that, you know, explore, volunteer, and do anything that you need to do to help you find that.
We're going to go into the question and answer period now. I'm going to get it started with a question that I have. And in the meantime, think about it, and we'll come out to the audience for the next question. Kadra, you mentioned this. The cost of post-secondary education is something that always comes up. Even if people don't talk about it openly, it's in the back of their minds. Would each of you please share with us the challenges and how you overcame or are dealing with the challenges of the cost of education, please?
Yeah, so I'm actually still dealing with the cost of education because I have a pretty heavy college and graduate school debt. But for me, I saw my education as an investment, you know, and I knew that one day, hopefully I'll have a good job that, you know, so that I'll be able to pay back those student loans. So I did FAFSA, but whenever I needed to take out extra loans, I made sure to learn about loans and interest on loans and find the best deal possible. But I didn't let finances hinder either my study away opportunities or courses that I wanted to take. So I would say, you know, become friends with the financial aid office and really learn, and don't just take out loans for the sake of taking those loans out, because you will have to pay them back. I mean, it's not like credit card loan debt or other you know, credit or loan systems, but you will have to pay your student loans back. So be very smart and be very wise, but do see your education as an investment. And I think that really does change, you know, your relationship with money.
Yeah, so I grew up in a single parent home without a father, and so, you know, and again, my world was very small, and so money was always something that I was extraordinarily worried about, which is why when I decided to go back to college, finally, I was like, I'm going to follow the money rather than the passion. You know, but the thing was, I didn't have the money to go. Despite the fact that I was working a bunch, it went to things like games and food and other things that 18-year-old dudes are interested in. You know, and so it got to a point where I was like, I have to crystallize my priorities. I have to look at what I truly want. And like she said, it has to be an investment. It's like, is this worth, in the long run, is it worth it? You know, and so to be able to look 4 years down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and see yourself as a result of this financial commitment, which is what it is, you know, and then you have to decide, like, this is truly worth it in the long run. You know, and the thing that helped for me too is to know, like, I'm putting this money into this education. Now I have to back it up. Like, I can't, like, you know, in high school it's wonderful because you don't have to pay to go. You know, and so for the fact that I was personally investing my own commitment, my own time, my own money into this, it needed to pay off. It needed to pay dividends. And so it crystallized my own priorities. And I was forced to grow up very quickly. Like, I did not do well my first semester just because it had been a while since I'd gone to school. But I also was just like, I was going into it with a high school mentality, which you can't do going into college because they expect more from you. And they expect you to want more for yourself. And so you do have to have an understanding of what you want, and you do have to understand that what you want is worth the investment, regardless of how much money, whether you're going to Oxford or whether you're going to Normandale. It has to be worth it for you long run. So.
I mean, my kind of experience is different than theirs. I was very lucky to have my parents really support me a lot, and
anything that I do. So my parents did help out with my college tuition at first, and I also worked part-time too. So the money that I was making at work, was put into my education. And so my parents, primarily kind of like supported me since my parents were kind of like middle class, so we didn't get any financial aid. So I kind of relied a lot on my parents, for money. But then I think also money is a huge thing to worry about, but there are opportunities to earn money. There's scholarships that you could apply for. The Leadership Through Service program that I'm in, part of the program at the end, I get a $1,000 scholarship for being a part of it. And there's programs like that at colleges that offer those kind of opportunities for students, and I really encourage students to take them. And because if I didn't take Leadership Through Service, I wouldn't have gotten a $1,000 scholarship for next semester. So, which is a really nice thing that is really great. Especially, there's a lot of opportunities targeted for first-generation college students as well. And I think you have to really you have to really try and go for it. You can't just expect it to come to you. If you want to work it, you want to get it, you got to work hard for it. So I think that's something I would suggest to everyone.
Thank you. Now we have a few minutes left. I'd love to get a question from one of our students. Does someone have a question? You've got all the answers. There's nothing you want to ask. All right. Well, here I go again. This will be kind of quick. We've got about a couple of minutes. What's the biggest difference you noticed between your high school time and then when you started college? Brandon, you kind of mentioned on it, but Alex, we'll start with you and just work our way down.
High school time and college time. In college, it's you kind of set your own schedule, so it's a lot more on you to make the time to do homework, to study, and all that jazz. And let me tell you, it's not fun. It's not fun at all. I mean, it's like I said earlier, you have to work on your time management, and so that's something that's a lot different. Like especially with like group projects for your classes. Teachers aren't always going to give you the time in class to do them, so you have to find the time to do it outside of class, and a lot of college students don't like that. But then it's part of what the college experience is like, and that's a huge difference that I've noticed. So.
Like I mentioned, there's a lot more kind of personal responsibility to attack and to confront school in the way that everyone has their own learning styles. Everyone understands and learns and grows differently, and so college provides this awesome opportunity, terrifying opportunity to figure that out. And sometimes the hard way, sometimes the easy way. And it's interesting because I'm 27, and so I'm currently in a class that is probably about 50-60% PSEO students from either Kennedy or Jefferson, as far as I know. And I get extraordinarily frustrated sometimes because the priorities are so much different than they are for someone who is literally 10 years younger than me. And so it's interesting. So I love learning. I love reading. I love discussion. I love getting into debates over different themes and novels and things like that because I'm a nerd like that. But then you've got a 17-year-old kid who simply needs the points for class. And so it changes your perspective, it changes your priorities, and college is a lot different because you have to figure out those priorities again. I keep mentioning that because it's super important. And so it's I lost it. I had a really good point and it's gone. It's gone. It's completely gone now. So for college, you're spending about, let's say, an hour in class. You have about 2 hours of work outside of class to do. And so they'll give you a task to do, and you have to figure out, like you said, time management in terms of I have to make sure I get this done. You got to learn how to adult real quick. And so it's kind of trial by fire in a way. And it's a beautiful thing, especially to come out on the other side of that just a better person. So.
I agree with everything that was said. I think you do have to grow up really, really fast. You are responsible for all of your classes. You are responsible for making sure that you're on track to graduate because each credit is a lot of money. So I think they said everything, but then one advice that I will leave you with is come up with a graduation plan. So when you first start college, sit down with a counselor and map out, because not every course is offered every semester. And so if you know what you want to do, and you are allowed to change your mind, but just like have a general idea and set your graduation plan, because it will go by really fast.
Okay. Well, how about one more round of applause for our three panelists who gave up their time today? And each of you are going to receive a rotary pin for your participation, and thank you very much. And would you have time to remain just for a few minutes afterward in case someone has questions?
Thanks for joining us today. Brandon, thanks for coming. You got anything to All right. That was great to hear from you three. I know the students are, even though they didn't ask questions, they probably do have questions. So if we have just a few minutes, you could stick around afterwards and we can answer any remaining questions that they might have. I know there's buses to catch. So I always love this meeting every year. It brings me back to, I was probably a lot like Brandon, because I didn't know what I wanted to do as a senior in high school. Anybody who's a senior who's not sure what you're going to do next year, I can relate with you. Went in the Army, and as somebody said, I kind of figured out that nothing against the Army, but it was not the way I wanted to spend my entire working career. So I exited the Army after a few years, and as Brandon said, you got to go to, the light bulb went on at some point that unless you wanted a certain kind of job the rest of your life, you kind of had to get that college education, and so that's what I did. Just a 2-year college degree got me a job in law enforcement. So Dallas and all those others who are thinking about careers and you don't really want to go to 4 years, although I think 4 years is a great thing, I got into a job that only required a 2-year college degree. And 18 years later became the police chief in this city, a very average kid from Blaine, Minnesota. If I can do it and somehow manage to be somewhat successful, when I did, there's not a student in this room who can't do it either. You just have to have a little bit of drive and determination. And that is exactly what we heard from you guys. So one more round of applause for all the students who are here today. And with that, we are adjourned. Thanks for coming.